I never expected it. After Huawei launched a number of hot new products, it even launched a series of punches and press conferences. At 9 o'clock this morning, Huawei officially announced the Autumn New Product Launch Conference, scheduled to be held at 2:30 p.m. on September the 25th. The much-anticipated Science and Technology Spring Festival Gala is finally here. The boat has already passed the 10,000 mountains, and I thought Huawei would have no press conference this year. However, we prepared a big one and caught everyone off guard and a huge surprise. After all, this is the first ever mobile phone warm-up conference. The date chosen by Huawei is also very meaningful. You must know that Ms. Meng Wanzhou, who was detained in Canada for 3 years, successfully returned to the embrace of her motherland on September 25, 2021. Seeing this, I really want to cry to death, choosing to hold a press conference on the 2nd anniversary of his return to the country. It is really satisfying to fully realize the spiritual revenge. If faith has a color, it must be Chinese red. Turning the former shame into a weapon to fight back against the enemy, Huawei finally returns as the king today. I have to say that this day is so meaningful. On this memorable day, what surprises will Huawei bring us? Huawei Mate 60 series, Kirin 9000, S5G SoC, and the ultimate product of Huawei's conference, Huawei Mate 60 as ultimate design model, are all worth looking forward to. So at Huawei's press conference on September the 25th, what other flagship products are worth looking forward to? There is no doubt that Huawei's conference will officially introduce the Kirin 9000, S5G SoC and Huawei Mate 60 series. In addition, there are many other new products at Huawei's conference, such as Huawei tablets, Huawei Watch GT4 watches, FireBuds Pro 3 headphones, etc. Judging from the information currently revealed, Huawei's conference is likely to feature the ultimate product, the Huawei Mate 60 as ultimate design model. As we all know, when Huawei launched the Pioneer plan, the Huawei Mate 60 Pro exploded and sold out in seconds. When it comes to pre-ordering the Mate 60 Pro Plus and the foldable Mate X5, they are even more difficult to find and both sell out in seconds. The opening products are so excellent. It can be predicted that the Huawei Mate 60 as ultimate design model will be even more incredible. As of now, both Huawei Mate 60 Pro and Mate 60 Pro Plus are equipped with 5G Kirin 9000 chips. As a top-end model, Huawei Mate 60 as ultimate design is rumored to be high performance. The specific information is waiting to be revealed at the press conference. In any case, Huawei's press conference will definitely bring us more surprises and expectations. According to a platform, the renderings of the MetaPad Pro series look roughly like this. It would be great if the Kirin 9000 chip could also be used. After watching Huawei's new product launch conference, let's talk about Huawei's old rival Apple. Yesterday, the iPhone 15 series was released as scheduled, but Lau Lo was really impressed. Apart from changing the shell and mouth, the iPhone 15 didn't have much new ideas. This made me wonder for a while that in the past 3 years, when the United States sanctioned Huawei, was not Huawei that was sanctioned, but Apple. However, I believe that Huawei's new product launch will definitely bring more choices and competition to the market. We look forward to the performance of these new products and to more technological advancements in the future. Moreover, in recent days, Apple has been stuck in the quagmire of false 5G signal standards, which made many people suddenly realize that it is not Huawei but Apple that sells 4G mobile phones for 9,000 yuan. However, we should not only see these negative news. After all, both Huawei and Apple have their unique advantages and charm. Previously, Apple also reached a new agreement with Qualcomm on September the 11th. Apple mobile phones will continue to use Snapdragon 5G modems from 2024 to 2026. Does this mean that Apple's poor signal will continue to iPhone 17? We don't know, but what is certain is that the development of technology is unstoppable. I hope Apple can bring more surprises in future products, but think about how difficult it has been for Apple in the past 2 years. Not only has it moved its Chinese production line to India, but the iPhone 15 made in India is exclusively for China, and the iPhone 15 made in China is exclusively for foreign countries. It is really ridiculous. However, we should not only see these negative news. After all, Huawei and Apple are both brands worthy of respect. and we should view them with a more rational attitude. I like Huawei Mate 60 Pro Plus. Apple. I like Shandu Yantai, Shanxia Watch 1, Yinan Jiaotong, Hernan Lingbao, but not the iPhone. China has its own characteristics and advantages. We should look at them with an objective and rational attitude, rather than blindly praise one and criticize the other. I guess Big Mouth will talk about being far ahead from beginning to end. After all, these 3 years have been frustrating us. This time I finally feel proud. After the Cold War, the image of the United States in the arena of world public opinion has been, for a long time, not that of a human being, but that of a god. The United States is not just an ordinary country, it is a beacon of democracy, a symbol of freedom, and a city on a hill. In people's perception, there is nothing that the United States cannot do. If the United States cannot do it, it will be even more difficult for other countries to do it. However, in fact, there are people and things that the United States cannot handle. For example, important figures such as Egypt, Salmon, and Maduro in Latin America's backyard have not been taken care of by the United States. But this does not prevent people from continuing to think that the United States is God. As long as the United States exerts a little force, everything will be solved. This is likely due to the great power and global influence of the United States. However, we should also see the shortcomings and flaws of the United States, and should not overly deify the United States in international affairs. Every country has its own interests and positions. As a superpower, the United States' actions and decisions are bound to be affected by various factors, including politics, autonomy, culture, history, etc. We should treat the United States with an objective and rational attitude, rather than blind worship or excessive criticism. As the United States is regarded as a god, American sanctions are considered irresistible. Some people think that if they can withstand it today, they will collapse tomorrow. In this case, it is better to surrender as soon as possible and strive for leniency. The elite have deep faith in the divinity of the United States, which is one of the reasons why ZT quickly knelt down after the trade war began. Calls for surrender continued to spread in the public opinion arena. This is not to say that the United States is invincible, but that many people believe that the United States is invincible and cannot even imagine it. Even the most optimistic patriots have a hard time predicting whether Huawei can return to its position as king in 2023. After all, the gap between us and the United States seems so huge. However, China's semiconductor industry, led by Huawei, did it and released 3 mobile phones in succession, all equipped with Kirin 9000S chips. This gives people confidence because these chips obviously cannot be stock chips from 2020. There are currently many different opinions on the inside story of the Kirin 9000S chip and lithography machine, but what is basically certain is that even if it is not completely solved now, will not be far away before Huawei. The United States only needed one sanction to put Toshiba executives in jail, Alstom to be dismembered, and ZT to kneel down and sing of conquest. However, the rise of Huawei in China's semiconductor industry has shown us a new pattern. In theory, it should not be difficult to deal with Huawei, but what is unexpected is that after several years of brutal encirclement and suppression of Huawei, after exhausting all efforts, not only failed to kill Huawei, but the king of Huawei returned, and it will be more difficult to deal with in the future. The consequences of the Huawei battle are actually very serious. The United States did not capture Huawei, let alone China, a mighty superpower. It used the power of the whole country, but could not defeat even one company. It exhausted all sanctions, but it still allowed us to break through the core technology. From then on, the image of the United States was no longer that of God or a city on a hill, but of people like us, living ordinary people. Since we are ordinary people, there is nothing we cannot defeat. In the battle between China and the United States, the biggest problem has always been not technology, but market and capital. We must understand the truth that in the era of industrial civilization, there is no technology that cannot be broken through. Because all principles are public, the key lies in the market and capital. The size of the market determines the amount of capital investment. The larger the market, the greater the temptation, the greater the capital investment, and the faster the technological breakthrough. The smaller the market, the smaller the temptation, the less capital investment, and the slower the technological breakthrough. Market and capital are the key to technological innovation and the core of national competitiveness. China, with its huge market and strong capital, has become one of the important forces in global technological innovation. As far as semiconductors are concerned, the Chinese market is the world's largest, accounting for more than half. In 2022, the import volume of optical chips will reach US $415.6 billion. Just domestic substitution is a market worth trillions. It stands to reason that this should be able to stimulate huge amounts of capital investment to achieve technological breakthroughs. However, this industry is both technology and capital intensive and is almost one of the most difficult industries. Coincidentally, this industry is dominated by the United States, and the United States is considered by the public to be a god. Therefore, Chinese companies have not dared to invest too much in the semiconductor field for a long time. Sometimes we have to touch this field, but only for design, and manufacturing and equipment must not be touched. After all, what God can do, we humans cannot do. After the trade war, the issue of lack of core technology permeated public opinion, once again strengthening the image of the American god. However, Huawei mobile phone Mate 60 breaks all this. It turns out that God is just a filter that the United States has put on itself. It turns out that we can also break through the core technology. When the divine filter is broken everywhere, the cost of American rule will increase dramatically. Things that used to be settled with a sanction or a look will now have to be negotiated, because everyone knows the trump card of the United States. It has strength, but it does not exceed the sky. In the past, when the cake was divided, you as the god could not only eat first, also get the absolute largest share, but now no one thinks you have the right to eat first, and the absolute large share will become a relatively large share. The biggest difference between the Huawei campaign and the War to Resist U.S. Aggression and Aid career is that the War to Resist U.S. Aggression and Aid career mainly relied on system advantages to defeat the United States. In terms of technology, there is still no comparability.
Mit den besten Ingenieuren der Welt arbeitet Infineon an der Entwicklung von nachhaltigen Technologien.
Für die Industrie 4.0, sowohl in der weltweit höchst automatisierten 200 mm.
A mobile phone company restarted chip research and development that had been stagnant for many years, which is a manifestation of this mentality. In addition to breaking the divinity, Huawei's breakthrough also brings more significance to China, which is the confidence to fight against the Western transport. The United States is promoting the relocation of industries from mainland China, and its efforts are mainly focused on the United States is still the world's largest market for the time being, and it also has a system of allies which
Autos und Elektrofahrzeugen und sind Teil vieler Anwendungen im Haushalt.
Brands are dominant, such as Apple in the past decade. Apple has increased its procurement efforts in China, which has benefited China, but in recent years Apple has gradually increased its purchasing efforts.
Die Halbleiter von Infineon sind im Bereich
been distributed to other countries as a supplier when we compete with brands. Unless we're have to move. If it is not transferred, the brand will change its supply. But neither brand will market a brand without technology is not called a brand, but no if such a brand simply cannot go far.
That can then be used in other parts of the body.
Should not be difficult for the United States to persuade many allies, especially European countries, to abandon Huawei, but to this day, this work remains unfinished. Huawei is still active in the European market. Even the UK, which wears a pair of trousers, has shown reluctance on the issue of banning Huawei. The key lies in Huawei's technology.
Mit zukunftsweisenden Technologien einer
There are not many choices for 5G base station replacement
Controller, Sensoren und Leistungsschalter sind Gehirn, Sinneszellen und Muskeln.
Technology is significantly better than Ericsson and Nokia. If Huawei's equipment is replaced, this is just the cost for one company. Counting other companies and various costs, the total cost will reach tens of billions of euros. The British government has made a similar assessment.
Für Lösungen in vielen Bereichen, wie Mobilität, Industrie, Sicherheit.
Approximately 160 billion yuan. The United States will not help you pay for this. Blocking Huawei not only involves financial issues, but will also cause a significant slowdown in 5G deployment, making it difficult to meet market demand. To this day, Huawei has not been completely blocked by many US allies. In addition to the impact of China-EU relations, Huawei's own technology also plays a big role. If it were an ordinary company, it would have been blocked long ago. These cases fully illustrate
Von Leistungshalbleitern auf 300 mm Wafern. Mehrere hundert
will even come to you. However, technology is precisely the biggest reason for the United States to launch
weltweit führend.
and promote industrial
Ob
transfer.
Datenaustausch,
Although China
Zahlung
has certain technologies, there are still many shortcomings and gaps in the entire Chinese semiconductor industry chain. For example, the reason why Huawei has leading 5G technology is that its mobile phones fell back to 4G after the sanctions. The reason is that because there are no filters and 5G radio frequency chips. This market has been monopolized by American companies for a long time, and the suppression of technological
weniger verbraucht und für alle verfügbar ist. Mikroelektronik, vollautomatisierten Produktion und erfolgreichen Innovationen ist Infineon Dresden.
Tomorrow, it does not have to provide them to blue and green factories and Xiaomi. You want to continue to survive
machen unsere
and obtain
Halbleiter
these
neue
components.
Konzepte erst
You must
möglich.
immediately move the industry outside of China otherwise. Why do you think Xiaomi has been running to India with all its strength over the years and has not looked back even after hitting the wall? If we cannot make enough breakthroughs in technology, the United States will require more and more transferred content as time goes by. Today's the mobile phone assembly, tomorrow it's components, and the day after tomorrow is the entire enterprise.
Ist der Schlüssel für eine lebenswerte Zukunft. Halbleiter wie Mikrocomputer-Halbleiterfertigung als auch in der ersten und weltweit einzigen Hochvolumenfertigung
Only those companies that have submitted investment certificates can barely survive. Gradually dying because they do not have key components. After seeing overseas in order to survive. As a result, China's industrial system has been hollowed out, losing the possibility of industrial upgrading and gradually becoming Latin American. In the last century, the United States was able to successfully deal with Japan by using this method. Naturally, the United States wants to repeat its same tactics on us. In the past 4 years, Huawei has indeed been very uncomfortable. However, the return of Huawei Mate 6.0 declared the failure of sanctions. We have made breakthroughs in a large number of key technologies. The localization rate of this mobile phone reaches 90%, and the remaining 10% is likely to be exceeded after technological breakthroughs. We can survive without American parts and components. The pressure for survival will be greatly reduced, and the motivation for industrial transfer will be greatly weakened. Not only is there no need to transfer, on the contrary, since China's supply chain system has also mastered core technologies, many companies will have to increase domestic investment and strengthen the current industrial system if they want to maintain their competitiveness. Otherwise, we may be dumped by friends like Huawei and lose our basic base in the domestic market. This technological breakthrough will also be transmitted to the supply chain level. In the past, China's mobile phone industry chain largely depended on Apple's attitude. Apple asks you to transfer, but if you dare not to transfer, you will be kicked out of the supply chain. Fall to their limit. But after Huawei returns to the high-end mobile phone market, considering the direct competitive relationship between Huawei and Apple, the more market share Huawei has, the more shares Apple will eat up. The fewer orders it will give to suppliers, and the number of suppliers will shift outward. The motivation becomes weaker in the coming days. Even if part of China's industrial system will be transferred, most of it will undoubtedly be preserved. Through technological breakthroughs, China can also develop many new sectors, in addition to preserving the supply chain. and breaking the filter. The impact of China's technological breakthroughs will gradually spread to the world structure.
Mobilität und Sicherheit.
Proposed the idea of dual operating systems between China and the United States based on Huawei's breakthroughs. When it comes to dual operating systems in the world structure, people often immediately think of the bipolar structure and of the confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. In fact, this is a misunderstanding. In terms of technology, the Soviet Union never broke through the limits of the West. It is typically big but not strong. The Soviet Union either does not have many key technologies, or there is a huge gap between them and the United States, which is why the Toshiba incident occurred. Coupled with the Soviet Union's poor industrialization capabilities, there is actually a huge gap between the Soviet Union's national power and the United States. By 1978, GDP was surpassed by Japan. Confrontation with the United States is even more impossible. The Soviet Union's long-term confrontation with the United States largely relied on the addition of communist
Forschung und
ideology.
Entwicklung in die Praxis ein und sorgen dafür, dass Infineon Dresden auch in
But this model is ultimately unsustainable. Without the support of hardware, software cannot exist independently. After World War II, when the gap between the two sides was not too big, they could barely compete. But after the semiconductor revolution began in the United States, the gap quickly widened.
Sind entscheidend für die verlustfreie Umwandlung von Wind- und Solarenergie.
The difference between China and the Soviet Union is that it has sufficient industrialization capabilities to achieve a real breakthrough in technology for the first time. Achieving de-Americanization, semiconductor technology can be de-Americanized, which means that more fields can be de-Americanized. For example, when technology does not require the United States, then standards can also be gradually de-Americanized. Then there is the de-Americanization of the teaching system and training system. We have seen this possibility of building a new world system on December 1st, 2018, when Ms. Meng Wanchua was in transit in Vancouver.
Unsere Begeisterung für Hightech geben wir stolz an die nächsten Generationen weiter.
Subsequently, it was placed under house arrest, marking the beginning of Huawei's unreasonable sanctions by the United States, because Huawei did not give the Sichuan government officially launched sanctions against Huawei on May 16, 2019. At the most difficult time, Huawei ran out of 5G chips and had to return to 4G. Revenue and profits plummeted as a result, until August 29, 2023, Mate 60 was released, and the former King Huawei was back. From the time Meng Wanchua was placed under house arrest and released on Mate 732 days passed. It is difficult for outsiders to know how much pressure Huawei and the Chinese semiconductor industry experienced during these 1,732 days. At the end of last year, Yi Chengdong said in an interview with CCTV,
Im Silicon Saxony ist ein weiterer Garant für den Erfolg von Infineon Dresden.
Until I went directly to work in the morning. In fact, during these 1,732 days, Mr. Yu was not the only one who was so anxious that he could not sleep. There are thousands of people who care about China's destiny. They have been working hard for China's technological development. Now with the release of 3 new phones equipped with Kirin 9000S chips, China has achieved a stage victory. Everyone can finally have a good sleep. When we wake up, we will go into new battles with full energy.
Verschiedene Produkte werden hier gleichzeitig gefertigt, mit höchster Qualität und Erstklasse.
Infineon Technology